Don't miss this special edition of Politically Conscious as Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates, challenges Dr. Boyce Watkins about his thoughts on voting and political power. Is insinuating to black people that voting doesn't matter as much, helping or hurting us. Montoya also presses Dr. Boyce on the statistics he shares online. Are they telling the whole story or only the part that fits the narrative? Catch us live on YouTube Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. If you're tired of the propaganda, listen to us. What's up, everyone out there? Welcome to special edition of Politically Conscious. We are definitely doing it different without our brother Emil, but I have a special guest in here, Dr. Boyce Watkins. We're going to get his background, and I'm going to keep this thing short and sweet because this brother is busy and doesn't have a lot of time, but thank y'all for joining for our special edition. Dr. Boyce, thank you for being with us. We've been, gotten to know each other some years ago and slowly been building our relationships. And I reached out to you about a post you posted on your page and said, you know what? Hey, let me challenge you on this. And with your schedule, we finally got to pull it together. So thank you for being with us, Dr. Boyce. For everybody out there, we put the versus thing out there, but we know each other. It's not going to be ugly, but we are going to challenge each other intellectually, which is what we love to do. Because I don't know if you recall this, Dr. Boyce, when I first met you, you came to the event. I told you I'm in this space partly because of you. So I wanted to make sure I still said that, because with bringing you on the show as I challenge you today. But we will, for anybody that might not know you, I think most of my audience does know you, but if they don't know you, tell them who you are. We're going to play your clip and get this dialogue started since we have a short show.
Hey, bro, you know what, man? The respect is mutual, and I just appreciate you, man. It's like, and I hate the fact that we weren't able to get together sooner, man. It's like my schedule was just not cooperating, bro. But it's been different parts of the globe, man. Like today I'm in LA and I'm about to go actually over a 19 Keys joint right after yours. Okay. And it's like it's fun, but the hard part about some of this is that you don't get a chance to show the respect to your friends the way you want to. And you treated me so well when I was in Atlanta. And I've always respect you. I also respect your consistency, man. I'm honored by the invitation. Thank you.
No, absolutely. Again, this is a special edition for those out there that are usually looking for my left and right. For those who understand, we try to weed through the propaganda of political media. That's what we do with this show, Dr. Boyce, is kind of give you a heads up. But since we're talking politics, I decided, you know what? Let me bring him on the Politically Conscious show versus our Mental Dialogue show. For those who know about our long-time running show, Mental Dialogue. But with that said, we're not going to keep y'all waiting. Here's the clip that made me say, Dr. Boyce, let's talk about this. So let me start with this clip. And we'll dialogue about it, and we'll definitely get to y'all comments like we typically do out there. Let me get this clip pulled up. Here we go. All right, let's go with this.
So the Supreme Court just rolled back some serious issues in the Voting Rights Act from Section 2, and it has to do with race. And a lot of people are upset about it for good reason, because they feel that it's taking away some of the civil rights advances that we've made over the last 50 years. I'm not here to disagree with any of that. One thing that I would throw out there, though, is you have to be really careful when you think that integration or civil rights or laws that are being passed by white folks is a sign of progress for black people. Because the thing is that whatever people give to you, they can take it away very quickly, and they can roll back literally an entire generation or a lifetime of work just at the snap of their fingers. Now, I'm not saying that this is a perfect solution, but let me throw something else at you. The last 50 years, we spent most of our time talking about civil rights. We talked about laws and integration, getting better jobs, getting access to schools, getting access to whatever white folks have. And the reality is that has not led to any significant advances for black people. Black wealth has actually gone down, or it's remained relatively stagnant. Black families are more broken than ever. And then on top of that, you have black children, the majority of whom can't even read at grade level in public schools. You can't tell me that that's progress, because I'd have to disagree with you. But one thing that does matter is wealth. And perhaps instead of spending all of our time begging white folks to do the right thing, we could have also spent that time building wealth and asking ourselves to do the right thing on behalf of our children. Basic small amounts of investing on a consistent, regular basis by any person watching this video is going to lead to significant, game-changing amounts of financial security for your family. I say this because my PhD's in finance. The math is not that hard. The other thing that you got to understand, when you get caught up and you start telling me that voting is the answer for black people, I'm going to challenge you. And the reason I'm going to challenge you is because Asian people do not vote very much. Asian people's voting participation levels are very low. But you know what the Asian community does? Not everybody, but the majority of them, they're big on family. They're big on education. They're big on saving. They're big on building businesses. They're big on investing. As a result, they have the highest per capita income in America and the lowest voter participation rates. Black people have the highest voter participation rates and the lowest per capita income, the lowest wealth levels, and it's still dropping as we speak. So stop telling me that the politics is the answer when all the data shows the exact opposite. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm a finance professor. I want to solve this problem. So my contribution, I'm teaching 10,000 people wealth for free every morning at 10 a.m. If you put the word money in the comments, if you're on Instagram, I'll invite you, or text the word money to the number 87948. It's time for us to try a different strategy. Peace.
All right, let's talk about that video, Dr. Boyce. So what I will offer to you, and here's, and this is not, obviously you're on this show, but I will say something that I always say when it comes to, and I think you will understand this. I think context is everything. Without context, you're not communicating. And so, so again, thank you for this opportunity. But when I look at that video, I think it is from my perspective, it is a huge mistake to juxtapose politics up against those stats. I think the stats that you talked about, we didn't necessarily give some specific stats, but I think you were factual in the areas that we were hurting in throughout. Like I think you're actually factual about that, right? Like you're factual about Asian participation in politics. So the things you were saying were factual, but here's where I'll kind of here's some of my rub. I have several spots, but we'll start with one and then kind of walk through them. But here's where my rub is: the context of juxtaposing those things that are not good for us or the things that are well for the Asians as if they are devoid of politics. And what I often say on the Politically Conscious show is I think we, as Americans, we take for granted some of the things that politics have provided for us just as Americans. We take them for granted that we say, oh, we don't see any gain. So here's where I want to go with this. So when you initially, for example, highlighted, if somebody can take away something that you were given, then you don't have power. I think that is that's the first mistake in the video from a political standpoint, meaning what just happened with the Voters' Right Act, it took the people that were trying to take it down and gut it. That was about a 30-year political play. I'm pretty sure, I know you're very aware of it was a 30-year political play. Here's what they were up against for 30 years. They were up against the political coalitions that our ancestors made to put those things in place, which involved getting that via politics. So the thing that they took down, it was a 30-year political play for them to take it down. So it kind of it's unfair or incorrect to say somebody gave us something. No, our ancestors actually went and got that by building coalitions politically to put it in place so that we would have equal protection of the law. People often mistake the civil rights period for integration and being next to white people. Ultimately, all King and them cared about was equal protection of the law, because prior to that point, we could build something, a white person could tear it down, and we couldn't get no recompense. The equal protection of the law was the ultimate goal of the civil rights movement. So it's kind of like to say somebody gave us something, they didn't give us anything. So I'll kind of let you jump in there, as that's the broader context of where I want to kind of dive through your video.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say that we didn't play a role in what in what was accomplished, right? We know that we did. We asked for it. We fought for it. And eventually we received it. Now, when I say gave to us, we know that it took a white man's signature to make that happen, right? And I think that one of the things that bothered me was I remember hearing some of what Lyndon B. Johnson said about black people. I'll have Eagles voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And that felt, again, to the extent that quote is true, and it was in someone's book, I didn't feel comfortable with that, right? I felt that there was manipulation there. And here's the thing. I'm not saying that what was accomplished was worthless. Particularly, you say context is important, and I agree with you 100%. And context matters in the sense that at that time, there were some pretty egregious things happening to black people. We did have the lynchings and the attacks and things that would happen just because you were black. I do think we live in a different era now. I know a lot of white people, and I know a lot of black men who've been killed. I don't know a single black man who's been killed by a white man or a white police officer. I just don't. I know that they exist. But most of the brothers I know got shot in the hood by another brother. When I almost got killed, it was a black man. And when my best friend got shot in the head, it was a black man. Right. So my position on that would be that politicians, they really love to trigger black people, and they love to trigger us with fear. And I believe that the result of that triggering is to say, okay, it doesn't matter what black people actually ask for. They decide what they're going to give you. So we say we want reparations. They say, okay, we'll get you voting rights. But I didn't ask for more voting rights. Well, we want you to support our businesses. Okay, we'll get you more voting rights, right? And it's like, okay, I heard you the first time, but if I keep telling you I want chicken and you say, well, here's a cheeseburger, then I say I want steak, you say here's a cheeseburger. I say I want vegetables, you say here's a cheeseburger. My question at that point would be, why do you keep offering me a cheeseburger when I done ask you for steak, I done ask you for chicken, I done ask you for vegetables, and then I figure out, the reason you keep offering me a cheeseburger is because you're not offering me the cheeseburger because it benefits me. You're offering me the cheeseburger because it mostly benefits you. Voting rights and the protection of voting rights and the whole idea of making sure black people vote, that has historically, and I believe I can prove this, benefited the Democratic Party for the most part in terms of keeping them in power, letting them get in there and do whatever they want to do. And I personally will say, I really don't care if people vote. I don't care if people feel that voting rights are important. I'm not here to disrespect that at all. Absolutely, sure. That's your thing. That's your thing. But what I care about more than that is, to what extent does the voting improve the condition of our community? If voting was doing what we believe it did, then I would say, great, this is working. This is awesome. Problem is, when you look at all the statistics of quality of life for black people, we're at the bottom. Then no progress gets made. So at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself at some point, okay, we know what we've been doing repeatedly over and over and over again. At what point do we start to really make sure that it meets the smell test? That really we're getting what we think we're getting, instead of continuously just doing the same thing over and over again just because somebody told us to do it.
Right. So I respect the thought process where I will offer that in, because you made several analogies in which you just said. It hasn't been a situation where we said, can I get steak, but I'll give you a cheeseburger. That's not what's happened with the vote. Like I agree with what you just said, that the analogy itself, I agree with 1,000%. However, where I think the miss is, and I'm not simply feeling like you're dissing what our ancestors did. I want to make sure I make that clear. What I'm trying to add to the context is the lack of awareness of what they did politically, and what politics does for us. So we I used to think that the politics didn't do anything for us, for example, right? So when I thought that, I'm like, okay, I'm asking for this. And when you say I can prove that the vote supported most of the Democratic Party, you're talking about the point in which we switched, if you will, to the Democratic Party, right? Like I'm saying, that would be the point where you could prove that, because we have been the only voting bloc that has been mainly one or the other. Like when you look at all other voting demographics, they're pretty split, generally speaking, quote unquote, between the two parties. We've only had a few small periods in American history where three parties were relatively viable, very short periods where three parties were actually viable, if you will. But for the most part, we've maintained a two-party system. So I'm kind of walking through this context to say, when you say a white man signed it, I want you, the political process works like this. It works successfully when, for example, the 12 years of construction where the military was basically protecting black people in the South. So we, like, for example, we were the majority. South Carolina was majority black. The whole state was majority black at that time. So that's how you get the politicians that got as high as they did. And this is not me just pumping up politics like politics is great. What I am explaining is when you get somebody to sign that dotted line, it's because of how our process works. Our process worked to where a Lyndon B. Johnson can make the comment that he made. We know behind closed doors he saw King as a nigger, right? What I'm saying is the actual coalitions that they made at the time, based on how politics works, forced a man who saw him as a nigger sign a dotted line. Whereas you say that's a white man having to sign it, I'm saying that's our ancestors using the political process to force a man who don't even like you to sign a piece of paper per se. Lyndon B. Johnson definitely is on record, like that quote that you just said. Yeah, people do the research, say like, is that a real thing or not? I think it is a real quote. I love to research, but I can't say I know for a fact. But a quote that is definitely is, he says, "I delivered the South to the Republicans based on him signing that." And he's talking about the former Dixiecrats that had come over. So that is the actual quote that is. So the same man says, possibly, I do agree with you. I think he said what you said. That disturbs me too personally. But that same complex man realized that by signing the civil rights, whereas we're saying against manipulation, and I'm saying no, don't give white people that much credit. Realize exactly what our black ancestors did to make that white man sign that paper. That's what actually happened. Whereas we're saying white man signed it and they manipulated us. No, we actually used the system and made them get voting rights. And the reason that we got voting rights, and I'll let you jump in here, is because after Reconstruction and the Southern Compromise happens and the military leaves, the KKK, most people don't know this, started by lawyers. The main thing they was concerned about was getting rid of the black vote. So that's how we get 6 people in Congress in that 12-year period. And the next black representative in Congress is 50 years later, because the KKK main focus was that we not vote, because they was like, dang, look at what those black people did once they got free. Use the same system that we now say, oh, politics doesn't help us. No, they built up those enclaves using the very same system we have in place today. The white people looked at it, lawyers, and says, you know what? We don't like them black people voting. They're going to have power. So don't tell me something that a group creates a daggum terrorist group for and says, we don't want them to have that power. And we now, years later, because we've benefited from what they've done, we actually foolishly look at it and go, man, it don't mean that much. But those white people saw so much in it that they created the Ku Klux Klan. Then now, 30 years ago, the same guy that authored going after the Voting Rights Act sees it as such power, and we're over here foolishly looking at it like, oh, it ain't much. They spent 30 years coming to get it. Ain't nobody coming to get something that they ain't got no power to it. And I'll let you jump in there so we can just kind of have a dialogue. I'll give you some specifics a little later of what politics actually gets us. And I'm not aiming this at you, it's at the audience. We sometimes take for granted what we actually get from politics, and we kind of think politics should give us things that it can't give us. So that's why we look at it the way we do. Go ahead, brother.
You know what? I can't say I disagree with with a lot of what you said. I think politics is very powerful. If it wasn't for politics and politicians, Elon Musk wouldn't be the first trillionaire right now. Most of what drives SpaceX is government contracts. We know these things, right? 100%. Now, here's the issue. I think that when we talk about, first of all, let's sort out a couple of things. First off, you mentioned what our ancestors did, and I think that we have to also remember that we are also the ancestors for somebody else. So, what our ancestors did doesn't have to be what we do when we take the role of the ancestors, right? And I think sometimes we speak of it in a sacred way to say, because the ancestors believed in this, we should do the same thing, because clearly it must be the right idea because it came from the ancestors. Almost like it's like a magical.
I'm not offering that. I want to be clear. I often say on the Politically Conscious show, The ancestors gave us a step. I hate that we foolishly use those tactics. We should be on the second step. We shouldn't be using those tactics. So I do want to be clear that in me highlighting what they actually did, I'm not also saying we should be doing now. I want to get that clear. I want to let you finish, but I just want that clarity in saying, just so you know, I'm with you 1,000% on we should be doing what we need to do in 2026, not still using old tactics. Go ahead, brother, and finish your thought.
Well, that's 100. So we're on the same page with that. So what's important is I believe we have to have the agency and the courage to question which ideas from the ancestors were the right ones and which ones were the wrong ones.
Absolutely.
And I think we could talk about this without pretending that politics is not important, without pretending that voting doesn't matter. The problem is that voting is a type of power that ends up where the manipulation of Black people is so extreme that we end up giving that power away. We give it to people that have positioned themselves as our caretakers, stewards, if you will. Right. The Democratic Party, they become almost like our nannies, right. And so we go and we hand the power over to the nanny, assuming that they're going to do their fiduciary responsibility of representing Black people. And because we don't have the political courage to demand something in exchange for that vote, because Ice Cube tried to do it, and they beat the hell out of him. They called him a Republican, which wasn't true. All that. I sat right next to him when he was doing all this, and I said, "Why do they keep trying to say you're MAGA?" Like I said, "Did you never worn a MAGA hat before?" He said, "No, I haven't." But that's the dirtiness of the game, and it gets to the point. And even when I dealt with the Obama administration, the sacred cows of the Black community, it has been to the point where the Obama administration is so sacred that you can't even ask for anything. I worked with Russell Simmons to try to get them to do something that they even promised to do. And I'm telling you, brother, when I went behind the curtain, I was stunned by how offended they were that Black people were actually asking for anything. Like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to use this power for yourself. You're supposed to use this power for us and the others that you worship. And so I would be okay with advocating for voting if I felt that we were politically mature enough to demand and expect certain things for our vote and have the willingness to withdraw that vote if you don't deliver. Like, for example, I'm a reparations guy. Why haven't we gotten reparations? Well, because we're a bunch of damn punks. We scared. We so scared to push the envelope.
I would challenge that if I could, if you don't mind. But I want to,
please go ahead.
Yeah. And here's where I want you to hear this part, these two parts clear. So my challenge to you, if you recall, I said how you juxtapose voting versus some of these real life stats. And so what my challenge to you is have the dialogues without juxtaposing it in a way where we denigrate voting, because we both on here understand how powerful it is, right? While we both agree, we still have to learn how to use it effectively. Can you understand what I'm saying? Well, don't denigrate it to make your point. Because when you juxtapose it in that manner, then what incentive do we have to even learn how to play the game if our best minds out here are making it seem like nothing? Because your real reason for it is because of the things you just highlighted. There are things that basically are extremely distasteful for, like you said, the Democrats in this case act like our nannies. I don't run from. I played last week. I played. I think her name's Nina Turner. I think she talked about how she's exasperated with how the Democrats treat black men. So I know if I played that clip right now, I have it. If I played it right now, just like I was in agreement with her, you would be in agreement with her. And what I'm saying is, in that, I still won't denigrate politics when I understand the actual role that it plays. So I don't agree with her and then even insinuate that politics don't do anything for us, because it's not true. It's not true that it doesn't do anything for us. So that's the nuance of my challenge to you, because we're in agreement with what we have a lot of disdain about how either party treats us. And Malcolm X, if you recall, when he first wanted to start his own group, once he broke away from the NOI, I always am mesmerized by how long their speeches used to be back then, right? They'll do a 2-3 hour speech back then. But I literally watched him in his when he wanted to start the Afro Unity group that he wanted to start when he broke away from the NOI. He literally in that speech spent 45 minutes talking about the fact that we need to learn the science of politics. And he broke down the numbers in New York, how we were still misusing our votes. Like you can hear that thing today, and it would still apply to how we don't understand politics. So his goal, had he been able to live, was he understood we needed to learn how to play the political game correctly. That was something that he said one of his legs of his organization was going to be able to teach that to our people. So Malcolm understood, because I would never let him be involved in politics. So Malcolm understood how necessary it was. I would offer, as a collective, we haven't learned that, but it would be smart for all of us to stop downplaying it, since it's something that we do need to learn. Why would I learn something that I even insinuate doesn't matter? Go ahead, brother.
Well, I think that's a great point. And just so you know, for the record, the propaganda machine that can't stand any black man with a thoughtful opinion pretty much has simplified my argument to say I'm telling black people not to vote. And that is not true. I've never said don't vote. I've never said votes don't matter. I've never said vote Republican. I've simply said that I believe that part of playing the political game is being willing to withdraw your vote until your party behaves in a way that is appropriate. And what what you're saying is 100% true. It would be false to say politics doesn't matter. Politics runs America. The Trumps have made billions of dollars from politics. The Elon Musk, etc. And so ultimately, the issue comes down, in my opinion, to okay. So what do you do next? What is your purpose? What are you actually trying to solve? Now, if your goal is to keep the Democrats in power and vote blue no matter who, then we've accomplished that goal. Politics has been very powerful in achieving that objective, keeping them same white folks and a couple chosen Negroes.
And now, I would challenge you. I would even challenge you saying that from the standpoint, if we're gonna, if we're gonna be thought leaders and talk about what we need to do, I don't like spending time on the part that don't help us. Like even spending time highlighting what we don't need to do is a waste of, that's what I would even consider a waste of time. Like, for example, I know you don't have much time, but in the video, when you're highlighting how the Asians are involved, how they're not involved in politics, but they're doing their wealth stuff. Here's when Asians get well involved. They're very involved in San Francisco. Wherever they're aggregated, they have garment lobbyists. So they understand the political game and they play for the lobby. They lobby the garment industry. Very much so. When Trump comes out and says the China virus or whatever, they literally go to Asian politicians and actually get the add into the hate crime bill. Here's how we talked about the hate crime bill that they got. I'm talking about collectively what I saw online. Collectively, we were like, oh, look at what the Asians got. Because people didn't realize in 2008, we had an add on to the hate crime bill that already applied to us. They were just getting added on. But if you don't know that in politics, people literally were saying, look at what the Asians got, and didn't realize we already are written into the hate crime bill. There's already a 10-year add to someone that is proven to cause a murder somebody or harm somebody because of race. Right.
Let me jump in. I definitely want to say this though. So if you talk about hate crimes, one hate crime bill, one aspect of a black hate crime bill that I would love to see is it should be a hate crime to use the N-word in a rap song. I don't care if a black man says it or not. Don't be calling me a nigga all day somehow thinking that that's okay, because I can't say that about Jewish people. I can't say that about Asian people, right? Why is it okay to say that about black people? And we can't even get stuff like that done.
I wouldn't ask. That's not something I would ask politics for, because the reason the Jewish can't say it because the Jewish don't allow it. We allow it within ourselves. Those groups don't allow it. We allow it. So that's why, you just using your example, the Jewish culture doesn't allow it within their Jewish culture. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's not something I would ask politics for.
Well, right, and I agree with you. But what I'm saying is overall, I think you got to go back to now. First of all, it sounds like you're also referencing local politics, which
Very
it
much
seems
so.
to me that local politics has had much more of an impact
Absolutely.
than national politics, 100%.
Absolutely.
Most of the debates that come to my desk end up being, did you vote for Kamala or not, right? And I, I had a woman who came to me and she said, "Who'd you vote for?" And I said, "Well, that's a personal decision because I'm a free
Absolutely.
American. I don't have to tell you that." And she said, "Well, I hope you voted for Kamala." And I said, "Well, that's personal." And she said, "Because if you didn't vote for Kamala, you're stupid." And I just sat there and I just said, that feels like voter suppression to me, that you're pressuring me to make a choice that I may or may not agree with.
Right.
And I'm offended by that, but I just said, okay, but because you can't tell me what to do, I'm just going to ignore it. But my point is to say that if you're looking at the state of the Black community, you cannot disconnect political decisions with the state of the Black community. So whether you say politics itself doesn't work, which we know is not true, you and I agree on that, or if you say that Black people have not used our politics in a meaningful way, it doesn't matter. It's still the same result. The same result is that years later, years after all this voting and civil rights, the majority of Black children can't read at grade level. Black wealth hasn't moved up hardly at all. Black home ownership isn't going up. Most measures of quality of life, family structures falling apart. Like so many problems have not gotten solved because and so I've never been one to say don't vote or vote for this party or that party. I'm here to just say that it's kind of irrelevant on a national level. It's become irrelevant in the sense of it hasn't improved your condition, because what is happening is we're having an inappropriate negotiation with the Democratic Party. The negotiation is inappropriate because what they're basically saying is, hey, baby, like a dude trying to manipulate his girlfriend. He's like, hey, baby, just, we'll talk about it. Just get in the car and come back home, and we're going to stay married. And, what it is, no, we don't have the courage to say we're leaving. Like, really, when people were attacking Black men and saying Black men are the reason Donald Trump got elected, I stood in there. I said, no, Black men didn't get Trump elected. The majority of Black men voted Democrat. We know that. I said, you got Trump elected because Black people gave tremendous support for the Democrats when Obama was in office. We had a lot of faith in the Democrats, and y'all played us like some damn suckers. So now you're going to have to suffer through a Trump administration. A Trump presidency, honestly, for a lot of Black folks I know, except for the ones that have government contracts and DEI jobs, most Black folks I know, their lives don't get better under Democrat or Republican administration. So when you say, well, he's doing this and doing that, and he's hurting us this way and that way, folks who are just living their lives like me, I'm a father taking care of my wife and my kids. None of these suckers pay no bills in my house. I'm not even thinking about, you're mad because they called Michelle Obama a man. If she's not a man, then she's not a man. I don't even care, right? It's little things like that we put so much energy into. I just would say that the reason it offends me is because I've always felt if we put as much energy into building our wealth, taking care of our communities, elevating our own condition, as we put into these politics, we would actually make a far more progress, right?
I just think I think you have them disconnected in a way. I know you only have 30 more time, so I want to respect your time. But I just think the context because what I hear specifically, I hope you can leave with this thought. A lot of the stuff that you're dialoguing about is the cultural wars, how the politics plays into the cultural stuff, which is not related to the actual politics. So, like, I'll just show you just one example before we go. This is a stat, for example. I just want to kind of say, watch out for this kind of stuff. Like, you had posted this on your page one day about who benefited the most from DEI, and the headlines of it. This is the propaganda, basically from my perspective, and it says white women saw the biggest gains far ahead of African Americans and other groups. And you see here, they're just posting the overall numbers. It also included this little fine print that I would offer. This is, again, I think we have to be smart about what we present to our people. The small print here actually shows the context. So this is actually DEI working, but this whole post says the opposite. And what I mean is, if you look where it says the women specifically, white women hold 19 to 32% of female C-suite roles versus women of colors hold 4%. So if you're not aware of that, we're only 6% of the workforce there, then you don't realize that's actually DEI working effectively, because prior to DEI, we're at 1% or 0% before those things get put in place. But if you don't know, this post looks like white women saw the biggest gains. You got to keep in mind it's 30 million white women in America, so that's why there are 57,000. Looks like it looks. This is just total numbers. This is a complete misuse of data. I know you didn't put this together, but I'm just saying this is the type of diligence we should have before we see somebody who's intelligent, who's intentionally, whoever made this post was intentionally using propaganda and not realizing this actually shows how DEI actually work for us. So that's my challenge, is to be.
I definitely hear that, right? And I'm gonna and I got a few more minutes. You know, I do have class in 20 minutes, but I got a few, you know, because I respect you, man. You know, with regard to that, I think that what you're saying, and again, I'm not going to say that you're wrong about that. It reminds me of when people say, well, there's more white people on welfare than there are black people.
Right.
Well, there's more white people in America than there are black people. Right. So that, you know, statistically is kind of a misleading statement. And it could be true in the DEI case. Now, here's where the challenge comes in, though. If you're looking, again, that's why I say it's very important to know what your purpose and your intention is. So for someone like me, Black wealth matters a lot. Black family matters a lot. The safety and well-being of Black communities matters to me a lot. Black children's reading levels, things like that matter to me a lot.
So let me say something real quick on that and let you finish. So here's a reality for the things that matter to you. Again, I think people have to understand what you actually get from politics versus assuming what politics can do for you. If you're concerned about the protection, there is specific language on how the police us based on how the parties act. That's a real thing. So if we care about the protection of our community, there is a distinguished policy that I'm an independent. I'm pretty sure, I'm assuming you're an independent, but I am an independent. But I do understand which policies will harm our community versus that will not. I don't like, at the end of the day, when the American public school system doesn't do a good job with reading overall, then I don't expect politics to necessarily make our reading go up. However, you have this other video that I want to play, which is the context you talked about recently about the hood. I won't steal your time with it, but you talked about historically how the hoods got put in place. So when those hoods get put in place and we see underfunded schools turn out bad reading proficiency, even in the South for poor white people, then that's actually a political thing that can be improved on how those schools are funded. So we can't say politics don't help with that. It's a result for why we see it so low.
Politics can help with that, but the problem is that it doesn't. I mean, nobody votes harder than Black people. Like, we literally voting is like, you know, is our version of gangster rap. Like we are really committed to vote, vote, right? And I'm talking about national politics mostly here. And I'm talking about the best way somebody can shut me up is to present statistics that show that Black quality of life has improved in meaningful areas because of who we voted for.
So I'll give you an example.
Let's be real. We don't even have
let's give an example.
Hold on, wait. Give me a second. Hold on, wait. Hold that thought. Let me just share this.
I'll give it to
you. When you're talking about this voting thing, if you really sort of look and see what we're doing versus what is actually happening, a lot of conversations get distorted. The George Floyd conversation became the dominant conversation for one reason. It wasn't the injustice against the Black man that everyone claimed to care about. It was a conversation because they wanted to trigger us to make sure we showed up for the next election. And the reason I know this is because during that time, there were dozens, if not hundreds, of Black children and young people being murdered all over Chicago and other cities that they didn't say a word about. They took this thing and they used it as a marketing tactic. That was the liberal version of when Bush back in the day put a criminal Black man on TV and got everybody scared to go vote Republican. Right? It's the same thing. The liberals just do it in a different way. Right? So rather than using Black people as a marketing tactic to get people to show up for elections, I look for real substantive differences. Here's the deal. Most Black, let's just keep it 100. Most Black men like you and I and even young black men, we don't talk to a police officer every single day. I talked to a cop, even when I was young, old, didn't matter. I would see a cop once every 4 years when I got a speeding ticket. I didn't feel like I woke up every day where police were chasing me through my neighborhood and trying to murder me. I know cops. I know a lot of cops. I've seen corrupt cops. I've seen good cops. Cops don't wake up saying, how do I shoot a nigga today? I've never seen that. I'm not saying they don't exist. There are probably more of them that, believe me though, there's probably more of them now after the pandemic than there were before, because we got to the point where we were scaring children deliberately and saying, if you see a police officer, you should run because they're Nazis. They're going to kill you. And to me, I'm like, well, if they're Nazis, if they're doing this, right? If all this is so dangerous, all I just say to people is, well, show me the evidence. Show me where a death squad of MAGA voters went into a black neighborhood with AK-47s and gunned down 300 people. At that point, I'll get it. But when you're telling me, when you're trying to get me triggered all over here, when again, I know several black men who've been murdered. I know black women who've been murdered. Every one of those people was murdered by a black person. And Ben Crump ain't never showed up. What's her name? The sister down in the Delta. She was a Delta sister down in Houston. Robin Simpson got stabbed 100 times by her husband in front of her daughter. Ben Crump. They called Ben Crump. Ben Crump didn't have no interest in that case because she didn't get stabbed by a white man. So they play games with us. And I'm tired of them playing games with us because I know what you're doing. You're doing that so you can get us to support you, and we get nothing in return.
The second part of that is wrong. You can't say that we get nothing in return. You can't say that we get nothing in return. Two things can be true at once. So one of the things that we desecrate is the identity politics. That's what you're bothered by. You're absolutely, and I agree with you, being bothered by the identity politics. The propaganda, like you said, the way they use George Floyd is absolutely how they used it. What happens is, I'm challenging you, Dr. Boyce, is that you're reducing politics to that. Two things can be true at once. But we understand that both parties are going to use propaganda because it works emotionally for their voters. That's how MAGA became who they were, because of the identity politics. The reason, Dr. Boyce, you froze up. Hope you're still there.
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Cool. All right.
My whole laptop's acting weird. Man.
Okay, I can hear you. So I just want to make sure you can still hear me. So we'll just go with the flow.
I'm gonna try to unfreeze myself, but you keep talking. I can still listen.
Okay, cool. So, the very thing that you're digesting and I'm agreeing with is how that propaganda is used. But that same propaganda is what, and again, I'm not saying because they do it, it makes it okay. I'm just highlighting it's the same propaganda MAGA used to grow its base, and now they're feeling slighted as well. What I'm saying is two things can be true at once. Yes, they used identity politics in a way that both of you and I both detest. However, I will point out that our highest graduation rates for our community were from 2008 to 2012 to 2016. The most we've ever went to college was in the same period of time. Our government contracting, which we just highlighted, how Elon is a beneficiary of government money. A lot of the work you do personally with your Black Business School is showing people how to get in position to get some of that government contracting. Well, I don't know if you've seen the numbers recently, but we went from 9 billion a year to, under this administration, 1.4 billion a year. Let me give everybody the full context, because I don't use numbers just in my favor. What you and I would have been arguing about together, whether we talked about it specifically, but I know you do the platform. We're not happy with the 9 billion when we know the 9 billion is only 2.3% of government contracting. So the push is to get more than that, but to not recognize that if we go from 9 billion to 1 trillion, which is hardly nothing, and we actually see, again, the white boys ain't trying to go after something if it ain't powerful, then they also go after the what's that sister? The sisters that was they took down in the case. What's that fund? Remember that fund recently? They got taken down.
Yeah. And then, by the way, man, I'm sorry that my video's not on.
We good. We long as I forgot the name of the fund.
Yeah,
but
I know what you're talking about, right?
Right.
And that comes down to the Republican version of racism, which is to say they're eliminating racism by acting like racism never existed, and stuff like that, right? We know that they are not our advocates for sure. But what I also think at the same time, though, Even though you're right, in the Black Business School, we have shown people how to get government contracts. I think that you have to understand the flaws of depending on government contracts when your government does not truly represent you. It means, yeah, sure, go get that money.
Why do you say the government doesn't truly represent you? Like our system just works as is. Like we should not equate the actual system to white people. Like that's giving them more power than they deserve. We're giving way too much.
I think white supremacy is a Charleston two-step. I think that we give them power and then we complain about their power because we don't know what power really looks like. Sometimes gaining power means detaching to some extent. It means if you want to give pain, you got to be willing to go through pain. What that means, for example, is ideally what I would love to see in Black politics, if I had my way, is okay, we just say we're not voting for the Democrats at all. And they say, well, no, Trump, the boogeyman, is going to come get you if you do that. They're going to come through your neighborhood and kill every Black person and put you in chains. Fine, let them do that, whatever the consequences are. Because if you want us to vote for you, then you need to do what we ask you to do. We're not willing to make that sacrifice because we are so afraid of, we've been trained to be afraid of Republicans. And I'm not here to say Republicans are friends of Black people, but I know a lot of Black folks who are Republicans. And it's because they're not into all the gay shit. They're not into feminism. They're not into believing a man could be a woman. They just don't believe these things, right? Angela Stanton King, you and I both know her. She just, she says, okay, well, if trans this and trans that is okay, then why can't somebody say Michelle Obama was a man? There was a Russian report, the KGB literally wrote a report where they said it in their report, right? So I don't care though. It doesn't matter to me. But the point of the matter is to say that there's some Black folks who are not into all that, because what happens is not only do the Democrats not represent Black people appropriately, they attach us to these other ideas that many of us are not aligned with. You're
leaning into the identity politics that I don't have no argument if you keep leaning into the identity politics. What I'm attached to is what we actually get from politics. I've lived in a place where the difference between having a head start, because the white people the white people who were living in a certain area didn't want to do a penny tax to keep a head start because they were concerned about us coming into our community, coming into the area and having access to those jobs. Like that's something that politics actually gets you. I don't care about none of that.
And I can see that happening, right? And I'm not against
it. Happens all the time. Like the reason, the fear of quote not voting Republicans is you're talking about the identity politics. I'm talking about the reality of going from 9 billion to 1 trillion. We can't dismiss that. I'm talking about the reality of, I don't know if you've looked at the numbers recently, but ain't many of us is going to school under this Supreme Court that changed DEI, that the Asians got food on. Have you looked at the numbers of how many of us are not going to college?
What do you mean not many of us are going to school? They said
okay, let me be clear. So since this was prior to Trump getting into office, so just to give it to you clear, but since the Supreme Court's decision, you remember when the agents went to and pushed the case out of the
you talk about universities.
Yep.
And you know what the benefit of that is though? I talked to somebody who works at Tuskegee, and believe it or not, she actually said that since the Trump administration cut off access to white universities, HBCUs have skyrocketed.
It ain't skyrocketed. It's 2.1%. I looked at the numbers.
She said we don't have enough.
I'll pull them up right now, bro.
Maybe it's just Tuskegee, but she did say specifically. She said we never had this many freshmen apply to an HBCU, and that reminded me of before integration, right? Our businesses did better. I just went to visit a place, Robert Smith's place up in Colorado. I forgot what it's called. It's Lincoln Hills. Okay. And literally the whole story of Lincoln Hills is like so many other places in the Black community. They said they were really prosperous until the 1950s and 60s. And when white folks opened their doors, the businesses started to decline. So I'm not here to say that Trump is a good guy. I'm not here to say thank you to the Republicans. What I'm here to say, though, is that sometimes when the liberals invite you in, that's not going to necessarily benefit you as much as you think. Sometimes that makes you weak. Like, so for example, when we say we want our children to be educated, and they say, great, we'll run the schools and we'll let your kids in. that mean that you're telling me that, okay, so you're telling me you're willing to be my overseer where you're going to get the financial benefit of my presence, not a black educator, not a black business owner, right? Or if they say, we talk about black economics and they come along and they say, well, we got more jobs for black people. So you mean I got more opportunities to work for you? Is that what you're saying? That doesn't appeal to me. We know that does not work, right?
I don't even know how to talk I don't look at they gave me something if I'm controlling the politics in my school. If I run the area of my school, ain't nobody gave me anything. Like, I don't look at white people that way. I think it is a huge mistake to see them as they're giving us something when you actually can run the politics and you control it yourself. Like, the reality of our black enclaves, I'll send you this information if you want it, but the reality of our black enclaves prior to integration, that was less than 2% of our community. That's less than 2% of our community. What our ancestors did not do, and this is something that, again, this is us romanticizing history, and it's a disservice to our ancestors to think that once they got integrated, they left our businesses. No, the reason we wanted equal protection is because they could burn it down or build a highway through it, because we was not allowed to be involved in the politics of our area. We didn't even know the highway was going to be built because we had no representation. We never left our thriving businesses just because we were able to go into white people businesses. That's something that we mistakenly say today that is not supported by no reality if you go research the history of what happened to our businesses. I'm not saying no black person ever did what you said, but we actually put that blanket on our ancestors when we actually have the evidence of how those enclaves were started.
Let me say this. I think that, and I know we only got a couple more minutes, but I'm sorry, I'm not on camera. I can't.
I get it. It is what it is.
But I think if the bottom line is to say that politics is worthless or means nothing, we both. I think
I've never put you in that extreme. I'm asking you to hear the nuance of what I'm attacking with you, Dr. Boyce. Or like if you keep responding in an extreme I've never put you in, I'm asking you to respond to what I am addressing with you. I've never said you said never vote. I've never said that on the show at one time. I didn't approach it. So it's kind of like I want you to listen to what I'm saying versus argue against a context I've never offered on this show. I'm not saying you said it's worthless. I am saying you are insinuating when you say, for example, the Asians don't hardly vote. And then I just kind of point out, well, when they're aggregated, they do, and they get involved in politics. So it's like we have to be careful of what we're saying. And I've also challenged you. I've not focused on none of the identity politics stuff, which I agree 1000% with you. So I've never offered any of that, but I respect you saying, well, when the politicians do this and they use George Floyd in this way, I actually agree with you on that. So I'm not even offering that to you. I don't know that you're hearing the part that I'm talking about. That's why I'm cutting you off, because you keep highlighting things that I haven't said.
Well, what I will say is, okay, so it sounds to me like I got the impression that you were saying that your concern is that I am acting as if the Asian community doesn't participate in politics at all. And
no, don't put at all on nothing I say. I never talk in extremes. If you get to know me,
so tell me, so brother, I want to reply really quickly. So Can you state in one sentence what you're claiming that I am saying, and then what I can do is kind of maybe we can find that common ground.
Fair enough. I'm challenging you to be aware of when you're insinuating, for example, that politics doesn't matter that much. Where you and I agreed earlier on the show is you agree that they are very important. So what I said to you was, if we know that they're very important, and when we say very important, we're talking about when they're done correctly. We also agree that our community doesn't play politics correctly. So I said, in the event that we still need to learn politics, like Malcolm had hoped to teach us, since it is important, I've challenged you to be careful in your dialogue about the things we need to do to quit juxtaposing it as if, and be aware of when you're saying things that minimize the importance of it.
So all right. So here's what I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna use an analogy because I like analogies. They work. If someone grabs a gun and they say, I'm going to defend my family with this gun, and every time they get the gun, they aim it at their own face or they shoot one of their children, or they shoot it up in the air, and it doesn't hit the target. And I say, you wasting all your damn time trying to get a gun because that's not helping you achieve the goal. It doesn't mean that I'm saying guns are not important or that you shouldn't even shoot. I'm saying part of what you're saying, that you need to learn how to use it properly. But the problem becomes when I have little faith in the ability of that person to really use that gun effectively, when there might be another alternative they can focus as much energy on that would actually get the job done. So for Black folks, I would never insinuate that politics doesn't matter. I'm saying it doesn't matter for you because they've trained you to vote blue no matter who, and to be scared into doing the same thing over and over again without there being any sort of understanding that you have to be willing to withdraw your vote sometimes to make your point. Abstaining actually is a political strategy. We've gotten to the point where we almost believe that if you don't vote, you don't count. No, if I don't vote, that I'm counting. That's just me showing you the opportunity cost of you not giving me what I need you to give me. So I'm not saying that politics is irrelevant, or I'm saying
you keep presenting that extreme that I've never offered to you. In your own analogy, I'm telling you why not teach them, say you need to learn how to use the gun. What I'm saying is, like, if you spent time saying you're wasting your time using the gun. I'm challenging you on why say that when you say, if you understand that the gun is useful, but they're using it wrong or they keep missing, then the dialogue for our community would be to talk about use the gun properly. You need to learn to use the gun properly.
Because it's a waste of time to spend all your time focusing. Because here's the thing, Dr. Claude Anderson explained that when you have the politics and you ain't got the economics, you're going to spend a lot of energy doing something you think is making a difference, but it isn't making the difference that you think. When we talk about how politics benefits white folks, look, you live in a country where politics don't even benefit most white people. Most white people, the wealth gap has never been greater among white people. White people can't afford to pay the bills.
How did it get there, Dr. Boyce? How did it happen? Do you know how that happened?
Well, it happened because the politics in America is controlled by people with the money. It's the money that drives it. So when I talk about Elon Musk making $1 trillion from politics, most white men didn't make $1 trillion. The average white male is suffering to some relative to where he was in the past. Because they've destroyed the workers' rights. They've destroyed, So what I'm saying is that
if the workers were to ever get their rights back, how would they do it, Dr. Boyce? They would have to do it through
they'd probably have to.
They would have to do it through politics.
I don't know. I mean, I guess that's where you bring in the Marxists and the communists. There had to be a revolution, because the problem for America, and I'll say this as a financial guy, the problem with America is that the money has taken over your politics. And you can't play the political game without having a wealth game. So what I say to Black folks is, I say, look, I don't know how, nor would I really have the interest in sparking a revolution that brings this whole country down. I'm not interested in that. I'm not that person. But where I am a revolutionary is I say, let's look at things that actually work. And what really works is, to hell with these Black leaders on TV. You're the Black leader in your house. You educate your kids, make good decisions, invest and save your money, take care of your mental and physical health. You're going to have a better life, and the people around you, your whole community, can have a better life, because a community is nothing more than a group of families, and families are nothing more than collectives of individuals. So Black people suffer because the individual, the family, and the community is broken. It's up to us to fix that.
Right. And I would add to that and vote. And I don't think you should spend any time even insinuating that it shouldn't be part of this plan. That's what I'm challenging you on.
I don't really care if people vote. I'm not, that's where I probably sound. That's where I probably upset people. Yeah. I don't care. I think I think that you live in a free country, and I believe people have the right to participate in the process, whatever that means. Even non-participation is a form of participation, in my opinion.
I agree. And the non-participation is how the wealth gap got where it's at for Americans, not Black people. For Americans,
maybe, I don't know. I kind of think I think there's plenty of participation in that wealth. I would
89, like they had record turnout for Kamala and Trump, 77 to 75 or whatever, but 89 million didn't show up. What happens is the wealth gap that because here's what the elite want to do. The elite absolutely want to concentrate and lessen the number of people that show up, because the people that show up can actually, they don't have the money, but they have the votes to go against what policies they're trying to put in place. That's how our system works. That's what Malcolm X wanted us to understand. He literally if you ever go listen to that speech, I'll try to find it and maybe I can send it to you, but he literally breaks down. He was saying, this is how many black people are in New York. This is how many white people are in this district. Like, when you understand the numbers, the elite do that and actually spend 30 years trying to gut the Voting Rights Act, because they know they can't do what they want to do if they don't. So you can't dismiss why they're doing it and not connect the dots. I'm not telling you have to vote Dr. Boyce Watkins. That's not what I'm telling you. Because I respect individuals too. What I am saying is, in you not caring, I am challenging you as a thought leader to leave it out of the dialogue, because I think there are aspects of politics that we still need to learn, to include myself and yourself, before we desecrate something that one other group is actually effectively using it against us.
Well, I'm not opposed to that. And when I say I don't care, it's not so much to say I'm saying don't do it. It's me saying that's your personal decision, right? And I'm not a political scientist in the sense that it's not. I just don't consider voting to be among the most impactful decisions a black person can make. I know black folks who don't vote who are doing wonderful with their families, and I know we like to discount the success of the individual, but all the collective is a group of individuals. So if you
know that's a red herring, though, Dr. Boyce. We doing an intellectual. Don't do a red herring on this. This mental dialogue. This mental dialogue right now.
Right. To me, it's just more so. To me, I just think at the end of the day, it's like, and maybe I'm jaded as a black man, but I've always just felt like I don't really believe that anybody in Washington has my best interest at heart. I
don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. Here, like, and this is tell you one of my positions, and I'll definitely let you go. One of my personal position is here's something I know you kind of could agree with. Like, I'm not a fan of African Americans having a political home. I'm not a fan of that at all. I also think where we're not aggregated, in the areas we're not aggregated, I think that black people should attach to the party that's already in charge, because it ain't but so many states that's purple, right? I'm talking about just around the country. Generally speaking, there's only so many states that are purple. So I would love to see black people say, all right, this is what we need in our community, and go attach that to the party that's already in power. So I'm not caught up in Democrat or Republican, but because I understand what politics actually gets you locally, I want us to learn that game. And if we desecrate national politics, we're going to create more apathy for, like I said, I voted for a penny tax that kept a Head Start. If that Head Start doesn't stay, then you got poor black people who now have to pay for daycare and have a job. But if they can send those kids to Head Start, they have a chance to get on their feet financially. I equate politics that actually works locally, because that's what I care about.
Well, we don't disagree entirely. And actually, my class already started, so I actually got man. But it was great to see you again, brother. I'm sorry about my video, man.
It is what it is, man. Thank you for having. I'm about to play a video of you big up in the Mental Dialogue Live experience. I'll let you go, brother. If you will, how can they keep in contact with you? I'm actually going to put a banner up. Which social media you want them to follow you? I'm about to put it up on the banner.
Dr. Boyce Finance. That's where I do most of my thing. Dr. Boyce Finance, and also if they want, we teach finances every morning to 10,000 people for free. So people text the word morning to the phone number 87948. So the number.
Let me get that number real quick. Give me that number. Morning.
Sure, it's 87948.
878. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 948. Yeah, if they text the word morning, they can actually get invited. It's called Money in the Morning. And what we do is we're improving lives by inviting everyone who cares about their family to come in and learn the secrets of economics, learn all the things that rich people don't want you to know. And I know these things because my PhD is in finance. And so I'd love to help anybody who cares enough to want to participate. So and it's totally free. Doesn't cost you a nickel. So anyway, take care, and let me get up out of here, man.
No, absolutely,
brother, but it's good to see you, man. Thank you for
having me. Great dialogue. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, same here, man. All right, my man. Peace.
All right, no doubt. I got my brother Emil Bryant in this thing. About to come on here real quick just to give us his thoughts on our dialogue. Obviously, I was able to pull an extra 30 minutes out of the brother. I had other clips I wanted to play, but hey, when the dialogue get going, I keep it going. But for those that are familiar with our Politically Conscious show, This is Emil Bryant coming from the left of things. He is a political consultant. I asked him when we were doing the special, we thought we were going to do 30 minutes for him to watch the show and just kind of give us his thoughts on what we dialogued about. And, naturally people have different opinions. So, I was cutting in like I always do. Cause I'm like, I ain't saying that part, Dr. Boyce. Like, respond to what I'm saying. But go ahead, brother. What you thinking?
So Montoya, you offered a thoughtful, challenging discussion. I think Dr. Boyce has a very clear perspective about where Black people can go. And one of the most emphatic points he made today that I want to bring out is he wants us to think about using other tools with the same focus and the same energy we use for voting. And while I agree that is true, I don't want to lose the energy and focus on voting to do that. I just think we should expand the portfolio. And that's something you brought out. So the discussion went back and forth. And one of the things that I think our listeners and our viewers need to pay attention to is that Dr. Boyce is offering a very clear alternative to a very difficult transition from the civil rights era to the modern era. That difficult transition is, what do we do past the civil rights tools that our ancestors used? You brought that up, and he's bringing out some very specific points, i.e., are you building your family properly? Are you building your wealth portfolio properly? Wealth doesn't mean millions of dollars. Wealth means, are you able to weather the storm of an emergency? Wealth means, are you able to take care of your family between jobs, right? Those are the things that are practical, useful ways to manage wealth that give us a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more breathing room. And that's something that I think as a tool that we can import for this era to push us into a different politics and a different way to approach politics rather than looking hand to mouth. So when we have these discussions with someone like Dr. Boyce, we have an opportunity to really expand the portfolio of tactics that we have available to us to make our case known. The last thing I'll say is, he was emphatic that I don't care if you vote, I don't care if you vote. I will say it this way. Until you have a politician that does something that you absolutely do not want, you need to understand that the power of all politics resides in the primary. You've heard me say it before, and that's something that we do not focus on enough as a community. If you don't like somebody, you don't have to vote for the other side. You primary them and watch what happens to what you want, whether they're Republican or Democrat. If you primary somebody, you're sending a message that politics as usual ain't cutting it. And then you can start to see change. And that's one of the tools that we always need to emphasize anytime we're voting, is we start at the very beginning. All elections matter. Primaries give you more power than we ever want to discuss.
Absolutely. We've been doing our show for over a year now, but I remember when we first started the show, you talked about how the Tea Party influenced so much because they went down primaries. So that's the type of political play that I think Malcolm X would have wanted to teach had he continued to live, and we would have effectively been able to understand the power of local politics, which is what I'm mostly focused on from my personal perspective. But yeah, my challenge to the Dr. Boyces and those who intentionally or unintentionally dismiss politics, I'm just saying, hey, the tools that he wants to teach, they're like you said, they're extremely important. But you don't have to, as you said, at the default or at the quorum of another, you don't take that one away. You take that fervor that he says, hey, we vote very well. We vote, we stuck voting. And I'm just like, okay, let's vote more effectively. Like, because we absolutely don't show up for primaries. Like literally, there are votes recently here in Georgia that were decided by less than 100 votes. So don't tell me we show up. He's talking about every 4 years how we show up, and he's not listening. I'm saying strategically, this is how politics work. And don't tell me Black people show up for primaries, because we don't.
It's something very important that Black people across the country need to understand, especially if you don't live in a Black enclave of DC, Atlanta, etc. I come from Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington. You are absolutely right in, we need to be fully infiltrated into both parties so we can adjust and move where it makes sense for us to get the power and help our community. If it's a Republican-run city, then we need people in the Republican Party, not because the Republican Party is necessarily our friend, but because that's where the power is. You got to go where the power is. And that's something that Dr. Boyce is trying to emphasize on the financial side. He believes that the financial side of things is where a lot of power lies. I don't disagree. I just think that it's not an exclusive
short-sighted,
exclusively politics or exclusively finances. It's both together.
Yeah, because the people that we're railing against that are making things hard for us, they're married. They have to be married for us. And
Elon Musk spent $290 million so that he could secure the kind of IPO he just had that made him a trillionaire. He did not make those. But if Kamala had won the presidency, I guarantee you he would not have IPO'd SpaceX in 2026. Guarantee you, because it was just not the environment where he would have been successful. So politics does matter. He spent $300 million, which is less than 1%, not even 1%, not even 0.5%, not even 0.1% of what he's worth today, right? 1% of $1 trillion would be 10 billion. He spent 290 million, right? 0.3% of the wealth he's got to make that change. In other words, what I'm saying is he figured out that money influences politics, influences money.
Absolutely. Like that's what Leo talked about specifically. What he mentioned Elon on the last show as well. And to be fair to anybody watching, what he said is he said it's understandable that the common people will look at those who have money and how they use politics at their whim. So it's easy to kind of say, well, look how they use it at their whim. I'm not able to do that, so this is not important to me. And so I actually understand that thought process as well. But at the same time, we've also explained on this show how your one vote can be powerful, used at the right time based on what you want, even for those who with money. And then if we can couple it with the things that, for example, I think what Dr. Boyce is doing, I call it being a revolutionary capitalist, which is basically just understanding the money game, getting your hands on more resources and being just fine. Well, in doing so, if you get far enough along, there will be a point where if you have a business, you might want to be involved in the politics of your local community on whether your business will have to compete with some group coming in or not. So that's where when you actually, enough of us get to that levels, then we can start putting our money into politics. I'm not asking common people to put money into politics, but just understand that your vote does matter. And I'm not talking about the way the Democrats use it from a identity politics manner. I'm talking about what politics actually does. What Dr. Boyce is right about is how they woo you over here, and because we're in a Democratic Party, and because our community is mostly a Democratic Party, we detest what the Democrats do. But we clearly point out both parties do use propaganda that way. We're asking you to see through it and still stay in the game. That's what we're asking on this show. Go ahead, brother.
If the Republicans can embrace neo-Confederacy and neo-Nazis and all the other people that make up their coalition in order to get the votes they need to do the things they think are important, then we got to learn to do the same thing. And that's going to be a very challenging proposition for a lot of people. I am not asking Black people to line up with neo-Nazis. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you may have to include in your coalition people that don't necessarily comport to everything you find favorable, but their overall desire overlaps.
No. Don't even say their overall desire. Connected to the policy that you want.
Exactly. So desired policy is all that matters.
Yeah. So connected to the policy that you want.
Absolutely.
That's the part. Because when we're saying we're getting nothing, we're going, oh, we don't want that cultural stuff they're doing. So I get that we don't want it, but if that same group will line up with you to get this light bill lower, I'm gonna line up with the group that's gonna get the light bill lower, because that's my need.
How coalitions are built. That is how coalitions run, and that's how coalitions survive.
Politics makes for strange bedfellows. That's the politically conscious angle that we're begging our watchers to learn, and I'm still learning. So I'm not as apathetic as I am. I'm learning from Emil. I'm learning from Leo, and I am more conscious when I go in the booth because of what I learned from these brothers.
One of the things that we are going to have to do, and this is my final point before we finish today, is we're going to have to be, as a group of people who have concerns and issues that matter to us, we're going to have to articulate those concerns through the ballot and through other means. And those other means include political contributions, political action committees, other tools at our disposal. What we haven't said yet, in ways that need to be said, is $5 a month from 1 million people changes the needle on any politics you want to do in America. How do I know this? Because tens of thousands of dollars influence political candidates in different races around the country, some of them national. So we can't just say, oh, I don't have enough money. If you got $5 and you aggregate enough people, that $5 makes a giant difference in politics, both locally and nationally. So the question that we should be asking, and this is what Dr. Boyce brought out today, the question we should be asking is, are we using every tool at our disposal effectively? And if we're not, why not? And what do we do to develop every one of those tools? He wants us to develop the financial tool. You want us to develop the financial and political tool. I think we're going to have those conversations over time to make sure that every tool at our disposal is used effectively on our own behalf.
No, absolutely. And I'm going to leave everybody. I'm a data hog. I'm not my brother Joshua Das, who does it for a living. But as a data hog, I'm real particular about the context that we give. Like even the dialogue between he and I, when he was saying, hey, the HBCU enrollment has increased. It has increased. But even if you go look behind me and find out the number is 3%, I think it's 2.1% when I looked at it, right? But even if it was 5%, at the end of the day, while I could love that HBCU increase, but at the end of the day, if less Black children are going to college countrywide, I'm not going to live on the context of, well, more people are going to HBCUs if I got an overall number of Black children that want to go to college. Everybody don't need to go to college. But if we're seeing a downtrend because of the law, and so the way people, in my opinion, I don't think he's even being intentional about this, but I'm just giving people an example of what I mean. We can't just go look at the HBCU stack and not look at the HBCU stats and not look at the overall stats. And then try to say, well, we didn't have no effect whether we voted the Democratic or Republican. When I'm like, no, less kids went to school, less people are getting government contracts. Your comeback to that can say, well, we can't be too dependent on those. I'm like, well, that's how Elon scaled. That's how a lot of the name brands that we know now, they were able to get government contracts and scale. So I'm not also saying being too dependent on it, but don't tell me 9 billion to 1 trillion is no effect on our community. But that's how we talk carelessly about we don't get anything from politics. I got way more examples of what I'm saying, but that's how we talk because we don't go actually look at the difference. Highest graduation rates under Obama, highest graduation rates in college, high school, more, you know what I'm saying? Like these are things that, because again, you know what we always talk about, Mill, the Democrats don't say it because they're trying to court the other side, so they never say it. And again, I'm not for the Democrats, but don't tell me we don't get nothing without looking up the information.
Right. And that's the thing that I think we're going to have to be if we're looking to be fed by these political parties, all we're going to get fed is propaganda.
Exactly.
But if we look at the data that they present to themselves on their own, because there are constituents within those parties that are looking for specific data points. The mass consumption, propaganda. But when you follow certain players in the parties, they will tell you exactly what they're doing on those individual or those groups' behalf, because they want that money or those votes or that support. Right. That's a very important element. So for all of our listeners, I would ask all of them to stop listening to any propaganda from either party, any mainstream ad. Absolutely. And if you want information about, does this benefit me, go ask a specific question and look at the data underlying it. That is the only way you're going to get the information, because these parties will never feed you information that's healthy for your decision making. They'll always try to sway you toward their side through the emotion and not through the facts.
Yeah, here in the South, these political maps, here's a reality. Forget the damn parties, but here's a reality. When you lose the representation, here's something you taught me, Emil, specifically. I never understood this concept until you said it on this show. But at the end of the day, your representation's number one job is to get money into your district. And so when you redraw the lines, I'm here in Georgia. In Georgia, Black farmers are going to suffer after this redistricting.
Yes.
Because now they won't have a representative bringing the money to them because what you can do as a representative is if something gets put in place legally, then you can say, all right, bring the money, and you let your constituents know, hey, you qualify for this thing that we've put in place in Congress. We wrote a thing in law for you. We're gonna now we got the money. Now you can use it. When you get somebody that don't represent you, them Black farmers are gonna lose because ain't nobody gonna knock on their door and say, hey, we just put this law in place that's gonna help you. That's what your representative does for you when you have representation. Again,
the USDA had built under President Biden a program for Black farmers specifically. The Republicans and white farmers sued and said this was not true. Guess how far it went, and guess which Supreme Court said what it said about that law. Elections have consequences, and we have to stop thinking that they don't matter. Those Black farmers who would have prospered under that USDA, that was money that they were entitled to. That was money that they were asking for, begging for. White farmers were getting that money and Black farmers weren't. And the USDA was specifically discriminating against Black farmers. And when they went to court and Congress changed the law, they were able to get something that was for them until that law got blocked. I'm telling you, elections have consequences, and it's not enough to just say vote. We have to be specific. You need to understand that voting, every election, local level, state level, national level, has consequences, and you and I need to be able to articulate to all of our viewers and the world at large that the numbers bear out the truth. The more you vote in your own interest, the more likely you are to get the things that are benefiting your interest. But you can't do it without the understanding. And these parties, both of them, do not feed you data, they feed you emotion. So we have to get out from under the emotion and start looking at the facts and voting with facts.
Absolutely. Love it, man. Thank you for the time you added on to it, man. Great add on. All right,
fantastic show. Thank you, Dr. Boyce. Really appreciate you, brother. This was a great show.
That, brother. All right, I put the information down for anybody that wants to follow him or be a part of his morning Black Business School. So hopefully y'all take advantage of that. I'm going to end with a commercial for those who are in Atlanta, opportunity to participate with us on Juneteenth, the Mental Dialogue Live experience, as we are discussing. We like to take intellectual dialogues on the Mental Dialogue Community Club. And so we're specifically discussing what if the world only had one race. Here's the actual promo for it. So go to mentaldialogue.com to join us this Friday for the live experience at Urban Grind. Atlanta, what if everything you've been taught about race is wrong? Friday, June 19th at 7 p.m., the Mental Dialogue live experience tackles one explosive question. What if the world only had one race? Join diversity consultant Latrice Ross and special guest Brother Unc of the Pseudo Killers for a night of bold ideas, challenging conversations, and real networking. Got a business? Take the mic during our live business break and pitch the crowd. Donation entry, free parking, stop scrolling, start thinking, the Mental Dialogue live experience. All I ask